I'm Nintendo.
And I'm Sega. This is Console Wars!
Something's different.
Well, I'm glad you noticed, and the answer is yes, I did get a haircut.
All right, well, guess I'll check the mail. Oh, nice! My Terminator 2 DVD showed up.
Why'd you buy T2? We already have the theatrical edition, special edition, and ultimate edition.
Yeah, man, but this is the super secret ultimate edition. It's got buttloads of deleted scenes.
Really? Pop it in, let's check it out.
Way ahead of you. Let's start with the deleted scenes.
Too bad you don't have any blades.
You want to bet, dickwad? I brought this from the future. Lights out.
What? A lightsaber in a Terminator?
That's awesome! And so stupid at the same time?
Yeah, but I'm pumped. Let's watch another, man.
How about this one?
You know, that's actually much better. I don't think I'm gonna die. I think I'm just gonna go home. Yeah, I'm just gonna go home.
Why didn't they just stick with that?
Honestly, I'm kinda happy Dyson lives.
Let's check out another one.
Ooh! Look, we got our guy! Another Weird Al parody.
Nice!
Hands turn to knives and other kitchen supplies. I could peel a potato or pinch with the tongs or slice a pie or open some wine.
That was awesome. That should have been released.
I'm having a lot of fun. Put another one on.
Alright, this one's got a cameo. Sylvester Stallone!
Yeah, stop my mouth. Hey, Oishi! No! I'm the Uncle Junker, who's on the mouth. I am the law! I'm giving a lip! And if you're fat follow me, you know? Adrian!
Huh, that was an interesting cameo.
Yeah, he was saying lines from movies that wouldn't be released for years.
You know what that last one reminds me of? T2 the arcade game. Man, I used to play that all the time. Or the Sega Genesis.
Right. But it's better for the Super Nintendo.
What? That's it! Are we doing this?
Is a kangaroo not able to hop if you lift its tail because it uses it for balance? Yes.
Best T2 the arcade game.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a light gun shooter. It was released for the arcade in 1991 by Midway. It came out alongside the film, and many of the actors reprised their roles as part of the game's photorealistic digitized graphics. The game was so successful for the arcade, Acclaim had it ported to many home consoles under the name T2 the arcade game.
There are ports for Amiga, Game Boy, Game Gear, Sega Master System, and MS-DOS. Today we're looking at the Super Nintendo version released under LJN, and the Sega Genesis version released under Arena Entertainment. Two ports with numerous differences. Which one's better? Let's find out.
Games look similar.
We have similar looking levels, similar looking enemies, similar looking allies, and similar looking bosses.
You jerk him a chain? My game looks so much better than yours.
The Super Nintendo game uses digitized graphics for all the characters, just like the arcade. The Sega game couldn't handle that, so they just started from scratch and just used pixelated artwork instead. It's definitely not the same as the Super Nintendo. My game just looks more real. Check out the T1000 on the Super Nintendo. And now on Sega. Ugh, that's bad.
Overall, my game looks more like the arcade.
The digitized graphics also make my game look smoother. True to the source material, the Super Nintendo game looks more like the arcade. Every single level. Every single character. Nothing in the Sega game even comes close. And even if you don't care about being arcade perfect, the darker colors on the Super Nintendo really capture the T2 look, much more than the bright colors on Sega.
Your game gets bright.
When you play the Super Nintendo game, sure, it's dark, unless you play with the light gun. When you play with the Super Scope, everything on Super Nintendo gets brighter. Like, a lot brighter. It really has that clothes that have faded in the wash look. The Sega game, on the other hand, maintains its look, whether you're playing with the Menacer or controller.
Even with the bright colors of the Super Scope, my game still looks better, and has digitized graphics.
What? But those look so outdated.
What? Everything looks better with digitized graphics.
Like what?
Easy. The 3 Bs. Beer, bacon, brews.
What? Those things are never digitized. And aren't beers and brews the same?
I like drinking! And the bacon's not so bad.
Okay. Well, your game's missing things.
In Sega, when you blow up a T800, you see him break up into a bunch of pieces. On Super Nintendo, it doesn't look as good. Also, on this boss, it's obvious where to shoot because that part has more explosions. On Super Nintendo, it just explodes everywhere, even where you're not supposed to shoot. This can definitely be a little confusing. And on this level in Genesis, you can see the T1000 in the truck ramming you. On Super Nintendo, you don't see him. So I guess this time, it's the Sega game that's more like the arcade.
You want to talk about missing things? Fine.
You're missing a lot of things in the Sega game. You're missing destructible walls in some stages. You're missing allies in certain areas. And you're completely missing this no admittance sign. There's more missing, but we don't have all day.
Your game tried, it just missed the mark.
For being truer to the arcade game and maintaining those digitized characters and detailed levels, best graphics go to Super Nintendo.
Our presentation's pretty much the same. Just take a look at the cutscenes.
The intros are the same. The in-game cutscenes are the same, although my text is in the cutscenes while yours occurs before. And we have the same endings.
There's other similarities too.
We both have the same score tallies after each level. You have Arnold's in the background while objects you destroyed pop up. We also have similar high scores with the T1000 in the background.
Pretty similar.
There is a difference with our HUDs.
Once again, the Super Nintendo is more like the arcade. My life bar is on the side while yours is below with the gun power. And my score, bullet count, and credits look more like the arcade too.
There's also another difference.
There are 2 levels where you need to protect vehicles. If you die on Super Nintendo, the screen goes black and then the level restarts, just like you'd expect. On Sega, however, the screen doesn't go black. The screen just keeps scrolling, and then you're right back at it. It's a nice way to keep the action going.
The action never stops on Sega, unlike Super Nintendo.
No, my presentation's still better. Let's talk about the font.
The text on Super Nintendo is bigger. It might not seem like a big deal, but it kinda is. You can see this with the gun power-ups. They pop more against the dark Super Nintendo background. And look at Smart Bombs. In the Super Nintendo game, when you use it, you can see the extended damage front and center. On Sega, they show you in a place you can barely see it. Pretty much every power-up is easier to view on Super Nintendo. Now, look at the Cyberdyne level. On Super Nintendo, you can clearly see how much equipment still needs to be destroyed. On Sega, you can barely see it. And it's really hard to see when you get to this area. With all the action on the screen, text that pops is a lot more helpful.
Is that the best you can do, font size? Your game's actually missing something.
When you beat a level in Sega, you see the title screen, just like the arcade. You don't have it on Super Nintendo.
Hey, I was trying to be nice, but now I'm going for the jugular. Let's look at those cutscenes.
We'll start with an in-game cutscene. After you freeze the T1000 on Super Nintendo, you see him start to get away in liquid form. You don't see that at all on Sega. Here's the Super Nintendo when the T800 scans people. That looks just like the movie. Now check it out on Sega. It didn't even turn red. What is that? As a matter of fact, the T800 point of view never turns red on the Sega game. Now let's look at the endings. Here's Super Nintendo. The T1000 falls into the molten steel, just like the movie. Now here's the Sega game. What? Where's the molten steel? Did he die? Or did he fall into a pool of cash and Sour Patch Kids? We just don't know.
And just one more thing.
Both games are 2-player. Why am I bringing this up here? Because the second player on the Super Nintendo has different color crosshair, different colored bullets, and different colored icons for items. On Sega, all you have is a different colored crosshair. Bullets and icons are exactly the same.
No denying my presentation's better.
With a bigger and clearer font, more differences for 2-player, more in-game cutscenes, and more accurate cutscenes in general, best presentation goes to Super Nintendo!
Our games have very different soundtracks.
I know. Mine actually has songs from the arcade.
Andy Brock does an excellent job of capturing Chris Granner's original score.
I don't have any songs from the arcade, but I do have an excellent soundtrack by legendary composer Matt Furness. These are some solid exclusives. Is that the Airwolf theme?
It's not from the arcade.
But you're a Matt Furness fan. Actually, I got proof right here.
Don't worry, Eric. No one's gonna know you clogged the toilet at Barnes & Noble's.
Whoops, wrong one. Oh, this is it.
Don't worry, Eric. No one's gonna know you clogged the toilet at Cheesecake Factory.
Dude, what is this?
This one.
Don't worry, Eric. No one's gonna know you clogged the toilet at Bye Baby Bye.
Why are there so many of these?
Just ignore it. Ooh, maybe this one.
Don't worry, Eric. No one's gonna know you accidentally got an extra order of fries at Wendy's. And then you clogged their toilet.
I'm kind of worried about Eric.
This one's definitely gotta be it.
Yeah, Matt Furness is cool. See? Okay. Well, your game is still missing voiceovers. Is Eric okay?
Don't ask me about Eric.
Okay.
This boss talks on Super Nintendo. Not on Sega. On Super Nintendo, the T1000 talks.
Are you John Connor?
On Sega, he's mute.
You're missing voiceovers too. This is what you hear when you die on Sega. On Super Nintendo, nothing. This is what you hear when you continue on Sega. On Super Nintendo, nothing. This is what you hear when you get a game over on Sega. And on Super Nintendo, again, nothing.
It's just a couple of voiceovers, and they're so distorted.
Well, you still don't have them. And regardless of voiceovers, there's no denying my soundtrack. For having some exclusive voiceovers, but for having an amazing exclusive soundtrack by Matt Furness, best sound goes to Sega Genesis.
gameplay is pretty much the same.
There are a lot of similarities.
Both games are shooters. You play as the T-800. Controls are simple. One button for bullets, one button for rockets or shotgun shells, and use the D-pad to move the crosshair. Pretty standard.
Both games can be played 1 or 2 player. Object of the game is pretty much destroy everything, and not just the enemies. On Cyberdyne, you need to destroy the entire level to get the good ending. Just watch out for humans, kill them, and you lose points at the end of each level.
You have various power-ups. Your gun can run out of juice, pretty much reducing it from a machine gun to a pea shooter. Because of this, you're constantly on the lookout for rapid-fire coolant and rapid-fire recharge. These are pretty much the same thing. There's also power-ups to make your gun stronger, like the minigun or plasma pulse energizer. These are also pretty much the same thing.
Other power-ups include shields, full recharge, smart bombs, credits, and a microchip that gives you a random bonus.
The games are 2 missions split into 7 different levels. Mission 1 has the battlefield, the human hideout, trip to Skynet, and Skynet. Mission 2 has Cyberdyne systems, the freeway, and the steel mill.
Enemies come in all shapes and sizes. You have T-800 endoskeletons, you have T-800 infiltrator units, you also have aerial hunter killers, and ground hunter killers. There's these orbs, and mechanical snakes, SWAT team members, and scientists, and of course, the T-1000 himself.
Both games are pretty hard.
Both games constantly bombard you with enemies. You're pretty much never taking your finger off the trigger. Your gun will lose its juice, so you'll be looking for the recharge power-ups often.
And it's not just the constant enemies, but saving people really raises the difficulty. There are 2 levels, Trip to Skynet and the Freeway, which are almost impossible for either console. Both levels you need to protect John Connor. Problem is, it's so easy for the enemies to kill him. Your aim needs to be perfect here, or you'll find yourself dying over and over. And there are limited continues, so the game usually ends at one of these levels.
Very similar games.
There are some differences though.
When you start the Sega game, you see a menu. You can select how you want to play the game and with how many players. There's also an options menu which lets you listen to various audio clips. But more importantly, it lets you pick how many continues you want. Super Nintendo doesn't have menus at all. It just goes right into the game. How do you not have menus?
Why don't I have menus? Because they're pointless.
The Sega game starts with 4 continues. You need to go to the options menu to raise it to 5. You know what the Super Nintendo does? It just starts you with 5. You don't have to waste your time. Now to 2 players. If you want to play 2-player, just have player 2 press start during the gameplay. It's not that difficult. No need to waste your time on a menu. Actually, the Super Nintendo game is better for 2 players since you can join at any time on any level. On Sega, you can only play 2-player if you choose it at the beginning. No pop-ins.
Well, your game is a lot more difficult.
Both games constantly throw enemies at you, but on Super Nintendo, it's ridiculous. So many enemies, and they're a bit harder to kill. You pretty much need to have the fastest reflexes and perfect aim to get through the Super Nintendo game. The Sega game is much more forgiving. You don't have to be as accurate. Enemies die much easier, and the crosshair moves a bit tighter too.
Why would anyone want to play your impossible game?
Granted, it is a little harder, but it's more complete. Your game's missing things.
The Super Nintendo has a MIRV warhead power-up. This is pretty much a heat-seeking missile that shoots 3 at once. The Sega game doesn't have it.
That's barely in your game. It's not a big loss.
I mean, you can think that all you want, but your game's missing plenty.
The Sega game is missing enemies entirely, namely the SWAT team members on ropes, and this helicopter. Both featured heavily in the Cyberdyne stage on Super Nintendo. On Sega, you're just fighting SWAT on the ground. At the steel mill, the SWAT team shows up again on the Super Nintendo, but not in the Sega game. And this boss fight on Super Nintendo has the mechanical snakes. They don't show up in the Sega game.
Why would anybody want to play your incomplete game?
Alright, time to bring out the big guns. Light gun time!
Both games are light gun compatible. We've briefly compared the light guns for this game before. While both guns work, the crosshair on Super Nintendo only moves while you're firing. If you're not holding down the trigger, it doesn't move. But on Sega, the crosshair moves just fine, whether you're firing or not. Menace is for the win.
But does your light gun make your game better?
Yes, on Super Nintendo, the crosshair doesn't move, but this version was really meant to be played with a light gun. All the complaints about speed and accuracy go away when you play with the Super Scope. You're able to move much faster and aim more accurately. It can even make some impossible levels possible. The same can't exactly be said about the Menacer. It doesn't really make the game easier since the Sega game is already easy. It can actually make it harder since sometimes the crosshair gets stuck. And those impossible levels are still impossible on Sega. Plus, you can calibrate the Super Scope before you play the game. That way, you can use the sight to aim. You can't calibrate the Menacer. The sight is kinda pointless on your gun. The Super Scope improves the Super Nintendo game, while the Menacer doesn't really improve the Sega game.
Give me a moving crosshair any day. Besides, no one's gonna be playing with these light guns. They're way too expensive.
True. But you know one thing that's cheap? The mouse.
The Super Nintendo game can also be played with a mouse. Again, this helps to improve the aim and accuracy that you just can't get with a controller. If you have this game for the Super Nintendo, this way is preferred over the controller. So what about the Sega? Genesis has a mouse too. Does it work with the game? No. 3 ways to play on Super Nintendo, only 2 on Sega.
Our gameplay is very similar, I just have more going on.
For 2-player mode at any time, being more complete with enemies, a light gun option that actually improves gameplay, and playing with the mouse, best gameplay goes to Super Nintendo!
Both games are good, but one is better, and that's T2, the arcade game for the Super Nintendo!
It has better graphics with digitized characters and darker, more detailed levels. It has better presentation with a bigger and clearer font. More differences for 2 players, more in-game cutscenes, and more accurate cutscenes. It may not have the soundtrack of Matt Furniss, but it does capture the sound of the arcade game. And it has some exclusive voiceovers.
Are you John Connor?
It has better gameplay with 2-player mode at any time, being more complete with enemies, a light gun, and mouse option that actually improves gameplay. The Sega game tried. It really did. It's a really solid attempt at capturing the feel of the arcade game. It plays really well, and the developer should be commended for pretty much starting from scratch. But it just pales in comparison to the Super Nintendo game. If you want a more accurate, arcade-perfect game, stick with the Super Nintendo version. Best T2 the arcade game goes to Super Nintendo!
How did I lose?
You know what would make you feel better? More deleted scenes.
Oh, we are doing this!
That was incredible.
I gotta go.
Call me.
I need your hat, your glasses, and your clothes. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. With this device, I can travel back in time and bring my clothes and my weapon. Oh no. I think it went back too far.
Why did I drink so much with Buzz? Now I am so lost. Excuse me, could you perhaps help me?
Hasta la vista. Neil Armstrong. I should probably fix that. Oh no. I think I went back too far some more.
87 years ago? Oh no, that won't do. Wait a minute. 407 years. I like the way that sounds. Excuse me, could you help?
Jesus, he was tall. And that hat. Oh no. Lincoln. Yep. We're going to need him. Oh no. I went back even further than some more. I believe I'm in biblical times.
I'm so lost. Which way is Nazareth? Excuse me.
I hope that was one of the bad ones. Like a Judas. There's not much left to, to check him. Yeah. Judas. Had to be.
Thanks for checking out our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Support us on Patreon for earlier releases and bonus content. Special thanks to Xavier TheLycan and DaGameNerd for their donations of the games. And thanks to Rolfenston for the arcade footage. If there's games you'd like to see us review, let us know in the comments. We will get to them. Also, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Console Wars goodness. Later!
Is that the best you can do? Font size. The game's actually missing something. You might have.
I did.
You might have
grabbed.
totally cameoed right there.
Yeah.
You might not. Yeah.
Yeah.